Today, we're diving headfirst into one of the most haunting cases I've ever come across. One you guys have been blowing up the comments about, the Smiley Face Killers. This isn't just a single crime, it's a chilling pattern spanning over 40 cases, 11 states and decades, with young men vanishing and turning up in rivers, often with a creepy smiley face nearby. Is this a string of tragic accidents, or are we looking at a coordinated network of killers hiding in plain sight? Let's unpack this mystery together and see what's really going on. Imagine a guy you'd instantly like, smart, charming, the kind of person who lights up a room. He's out with friends, maybe at a bar or a party, just living his life. Then, one night, he steps into the dark alone and disappears. Weeks later, his body's found in a river or lake, no signs of a fight, no suspects, just a smiley face painted somewhere close by. One case might be a fluke, but when it happens again and again 40 times across the country, you start wondering, is this just bad luck or is something far darker at play? That's the question we're chasing today, and trust me, this case will stick with you. Let's start with Patrick McNeil, a 21-year-old junior at Fordham University in New York, back in 1997. Patrick was the all-American dream, studying accounting, aiming for the FBI, always well-dressed and confident. His roommates called him a ladies' man, the guy who could talk to anyone. On February 16th, he heads to the Dapper Dog, a hotspot on Manhattan's Upper East Side. It's a typical night out, drinks, laughs, good company. But at some point, Patrick starts feeling rough. Witnesses later say he was vomiting in the bathroom, probably from too many drinks. He tells his friends he's heading back to campus via subway and steps outside to wait for a buddy who said he'd tag along. That friend never shows up. Patrick, figuring it's no big deal, decides to head off alone. Now, I know for a lot of us, walking home alone at night feels risky, but for a young guy like Patrick, it's just another night. Except it wasn't. Eyewitnesses spot him stumbling down 2nd Avenue, clearly intoxicated. But here's where it gets unsettling. A double parked car is creeping along behind him, matching his pace, turning when he turns, like something out of a horror movie. The last anyone sees of Patrick, he's near East 90th Street, heading toward the East River with that car still trailing him. Then he's gone, vanished. For 50 days, Patrick's family, the NYPD, and countless volunteers turn New York upside down, plastering over 10,000 missing person posters across the city. On April 7th, his body is found floating face up in the East River near a Brooklyn pier, 12 miles from where he was last seen. Face up is rare for drownings. Most bodies are face down due to gravity. The medical examiner rules it a drowning, manner undetermined, with a blood alcohol level of 0.16, twice the legal limit to drive, but he was walking, not driving. Here's where it gets weird. Forensic expert Dr. Cyril Wet notes fly larvae on Patrick's body, specifically in his groin area. In February's freezing temperatures, outdoor flies aren't active, but these were indoor flies, suggesting Patrick was dead before he hit the water. There were also signs he might have been bound or even burned. Retired NYPD detective Kevin Gannon, who worked the case, didn't buy the accidental drowning story. He believed Patrick was abducted, held for days, and murdered. Patrick's case could have been a tragic one, but it wasn't. Similar stories started popping up across the country, and they followed an eerie pattern. Young men, usually college students or athletes in their early 20s, vanish after a night out and end up in water. Let's walk through some of these cases because the similarities are hard to ignore. First, there's Lucas Hamann, a 21-year-old from La Crosse, Wisconsin. It's September 2006, and he's at Oktoberfest, a big local event. He gets separated from his friends in the crowd, and days later, his body turns up near the Mississippi River's shore. The autopsy shows injuries to his head, hands, and arms, plus a bizarre footprint-shaped bruise on his forehead. Authorities call it an accidental drowning, but a smiley face is found painted near where his body was recovered. With all those injuries, does that sound like an accident to you? Then there's Todd Jabe, 22, who disappears from a bonfire party in rural Michigan in June 2005. He calls his friends, saying he's in a field, but the call cuts out. 3 weeks later, his body's found in a private lake, upright with his head and shoulders above the water. An impossible position for a drowning victim. That lake had already been searched, so how did he end up there? Toxicology finds alcohol and antidepressants, but his friends swear he wasn't depressed. A smiley face is spotted on a nearby tree. Next, Tommy Booth, 24, vanishes from a bar in Woodland, Pennsylvania in January 2008, celebrating a friend's 21st birthday. Surveillance footage shows him entering the bar but never leaving. 2 weeks later, his body's found in a creek behind the bar, still in full rigor mortis, which typically fades within 24-36 hours. That suggests he wasn't in the water the whole time. Nearby, a spray-painted smiley face. William Hurley, a 24-year-old Navy veteran, disappears after a Boston Bruins game in October 2009. He calls his fiancée for a ride, but when she arrives, he's gone. 6 days later, his body's in the Charles River with blunt force trauma to his head, eye socket, and leg, plus GHB, a date, rape drug in his system. His death is ruled an undetermined drowning, and yes, a smiley face is found near the river. Finally, there's Chris Jenkins, a 21-year-old University of Minnesota student. On Halloween 2002, he leaves a Minneapolis bar in his costume and vanishes. 4 months later, his body's recovered from the Mississippi River, still dressed as a pirate. Initially ruled an accidental drowning, his family pushes back, and in 2006, the police reclassify it as a homicide. That's 5 cases, but Gannon and his partner, Anthony Duarte, have tracked over 40, all with young men, nightlife, water, and often that unsettling smiley face. So what's the deal with these smiley faces? They're not at every scene and they're not identical. Some are big and cartoonish, others small and scrawled. To skeptics, they're just graffiti. You've seen smiley faces on street signs, bathroom stalls, everywhere. But Gannon and Duarte see them as signatures, like a killer taunting investigators. They also found other odd markings, runes, arrows, abstract shapes, but kept those under wraps to avoid tipping off suspects or inspiring copycats. The smiley faces aren't consistent enough to scream serial killer, but they show up just often enough to make you wonder. This is where Dr. Lee Gilbertson, a criminal justice professor from St. Cloud University, enters the picture. He didn't set out to solve a mystery. He was just using these cases as a classroom exercise for his criminal profiling students. But the more he looked, the more he saw a pattern. These weren't random drownings in random places. The bodies were found along major river systems, near college towns with vibrant nightlife and easy access to water. Gilbertson's theory is chilling. This isn't one killer. It's a network, like a gang or cells working independently but connected, targeting young men who fit a specific profile. Smart, athletic, vulnerable after a night out. The smiley faces, maybe a calling card, a ritual, or a way to mark their territory. Gannon and Duarte took this theory and ran with it, mapping out cases across states like Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. They used geographic profiling, analyzing where victims were last seen, where bodies were found, and nearby surveillance blind spots. They noticed bodies often showed up in places that didn't add up, like upstream from where victims disappeared or in areas already searched. Autopsies raised red flags too. Minimal decomposition, suggesting bodies weren't in water long. Injuries like ligature marks or burns not noted in official reports. And phones missing or damaged, like William Hurley's crushed cell phone. Let's talk about Dakota James, a 23-year-old graduate student at Duquesne University in Pittsburgh. On January 25, 2017, he's out for a casual night with friends. Surveillance catches him walking alone through Katz Plaza, then down an alley toward Fort Duquesne Boulevard. That's the last anyone sees of him. For 40 days, his family begs for answers and searches turn up nothing. Then, on March 6, his body surfaces in the Ohio River near the Interstate 79 bridge, miles from his last known location. The coroner rules it an accidental drowning, no foul play. But Dr. Cyril Wecht, reviewing the case, finds minimal decomposition odd for 40 days in a river, including through a dam. He notes ligature marks on Dakota's neck and discoloration in his fingernail beds, suggesting he tried to fight off strangulation. Most chilling, a PayPal transaction was made on Dakota's account 2 days after he vanished. Was someone using his account, or was he alive longer than we think? The deeper Gannon's team dug, the weirder it got. They started looking beyond physical evidence to digital trails. In 2019, the Oxygen Network's docuseries Smiley Face Killers. The hunt for justice brought their work to a wider audience. The series revisited cases, interviewed families, and uncovered new details. For William Hurley, they examined his damaged phone, suspecting it was intentionally destroyed to hide evidence. For Todd Jabe, they conducted a forensic study using a pig carcass to mimic lake conditions. The results? A body in water for 3 weeks should have been heavily decomposed, but Todd's wasn't, suggesting he was held elsewhere before being placed in the lake. Then there's the dark web angle. Gannon's team stumbled across a hidden portal requiring webcam verification to access. They couldn't enter without risking exposure, but its existence bolstered Gilbertson's network theory. Could this be a decentralized group coordinating through encrypted channels, using digital smiley faces in usernames or avatars as markers? It's speculative, but it explains the lack of forensic evidence and the precision of these vanishings. These aren't sloppy crimes. They're calculated, with no fingerprints, no murder weapons, no witnesses. Now, let's hit pause and talk about the other side. Not everyone buys the Smiley Face Killers theory. In 2008, the FBI issued a rare statement saying they found no evidence linking these deaths to a serial killer. To them, these are alcohol-related drownings, nothing more. Experts like forensic psychologist Dr. Chris Mohandas point out that smiley faces are everywhere, on bridges, walls, skate parks. There's no consistent style or proof they were painted at the time of the deaths. Former LAPD detective Ned Tusby argues the graffiti often isn't even close to the recovery sites, and a serial killer operating across decades and states without a trace is unlikely. Criminal profiler Pat Brown calls the theory ludicrous, saying smiley faces are a red herring. The Center for Homicide Research published a report arguing these are accidents driven by alcohol, cold weather, and risky environments near water. They call it observational bias, seeing patterns because you want to. But Gannon and his team aren't swayed. They point to inconsistencies, bodies in unnatural positions like Todd Jabes upright in the lake, injuries ignored in official reports, and cases like Chris Jenkins reclassified as homicide after years of being called an accident. They argue the FBI didn't dig deep enough, dismissing the theory without reviewing their full evidence. For every case skeptics explain away, another pops up. Families like Pam James, Dakota's mom, refuse to accept accidental drowning rulings. They see ligature marks, minimal decomposition, and unanswered questions. The Oxygen series gave them a platform, and millions of viewers started asking, what if Gannon's right? Let's talk tech, because this could be the game changer. Today, investigators have tools that didn't exist in 1997. Geofencing can track every phone in an area at a specific time. Wi-Fi logs can place someone inside a building without a camera. Phone pings can map a victim's final moments with scary precision. These have solved major cases before, and if applied here, they could reveal what happened between a victim's last sighting and their body's recovery. Imagine reconstructing Dakota James' path or finding who accessed his PayPal. The answers might not be in the water, they might be in the data. So where do we land? Believers see a pattern too specific to be random. Young, athletic men vanishing after drinks, found in water with questionable injuries and smiley faces nearby. They point to geographic clusters along river systems, forensic red flags, and the dark web theory as evidence of a coordinated network. Skeptics see coincidence, common graffiti, college towns with nightlife, and alcohol as a deadly combo. To them, the victim profile isn't unique. Millions of young men fit it. The geography, just a function of where people party. The injuries, easily explained by rocks or debris in rivers. For me, this case is a gut punch. The families, like the Hammonds, Hurleys, and Jameses, are fighting for answers while being told to move on. That's not just grief, it's torture. The patterns, similar victims, similar circumstances, similar outcomes, feel too precise to be chance. But the lack of hard evidence, like DNA or witnesses, keeps this in the gray zone. What's undeniable is the human cost. Parents, siblings, friends, haunted by questions no one's answered. Why do phones keep disappearing? Why do bodies show up in searched areas? Why do autopsies miss things private pathologists catch? This case isn't just about crime, it's about what we do when the truth feels out of reach. Do we accept the official story, or do we keep digging? I want to hear from you. Do you think the Smiley Face Killers are real? Or is this a tragic string of accidents? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm reading everyone. If this case hit you as hard as it hit me, smash that like button and share this video with your true crime crew. Got a case you want me to cover next? Tell me below, because you guys always bring the best suggestions. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next deep dive. Peace out.